it was working towards something bigger than collecting a paycheck. You know what I mean? It was one of those things where the money was not nearly as important as the networking opportunity, building connections with people, getting a chance to actually just be in a feature film set. You know what I mean? Like how you get the chance to do something is just by being there and being available. And just, when preparation meets opportunity, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. And so, just making it onto set.
I feel like you borrowed from somebody there. That's really good. That was really good, though. Man, you just shot your first feature film. Super pumped about it. Washington's Armor.
Yep.
Like, congrats, dude. This
Thanks.
is freaking awesome.
Thanks.
Not only for you, but for the company. It's first for all of us.
Yep.
So, tell me this journey. Like,
yeah.
How did you even get on this set?
Yep.
What was the tell me, man. What was the story?
So actually getting onto the set and like getting in the position of DP, I think is one of the more interesting stories that a lot of people don't know. So rewind 3 years ago, you actually brought me on at the time as a behind the scenes videographer. So actually not even contributing to the production in any capacity, just documenting it. And then from there, we did our first round of production. It was a great experience. You actually got to do more than I did. And COVID then happened, and we actually wound up having to take almost a year-long break before we continued production again. And then from there, I actually got brought on as second unit B-cam operator, and you were actually the DP for the second unit. So I was working under you. As that round of production went on, you kind of were ready to push me, I think, into that DP position, just because that's more or less what we do on our day-to-day stuff.
100%.
After that round of production, the previous DP got let go, so they needed someone who they were comfortable with, and that's how I wound up moving into first unit DP position, just because you were ready to not take on that role anymore. They had worked with me in that capacity, and so moved all the way from BTS videographer to second unit B-cam operator to somewhat of a second unit director of photography shared role between us, then to first unit director of photography for the entire feature.
Oh, and bro, for sure, I was leaning heavy on you for that because that was not my bag anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, you're being really humble, so I want to, and that's good, man. That's great. I love that. But let's go back to the very beginning. Okay. I want to talk about your hustle and drive because you weren't just there to be the BTS guy, but you did it. You executed it.
I mean, to that point, it was definitely not. It was working towards something bigger than like collecting a paycheck. You know what I mean? It was one of those things where the money was not nearly as important as the networking opportunity, building connections with people, getting a chance to actually just be in a feature film set. You know what I mean? Like how you get the chance to do something is just by being there and being available. And just, when preparation meets opportunity, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. And so, just making it onto set.
I feel like you borrowed from somebody there. That's really good. That was really good, though. Making it on the set.
Yeah. Just making it a priority to make it on the set regardless of what the paycheck was. I think stylistically, I have always gravitated towards doing a lot of movement in my scenes, which was something that all the BTS stuff that I did for them was more than like documentary work. It was like, how cinematic can I make this behind the scenes stuff? And I think that kind of translated when they were getting the final products back. They were like I remember a handful of the actors coming up to me like, why are you not shooting this? And I was like, that's a great question. Why am I not shooting this? And so wound up actually, as time passed, I think a lot of the actors, a handful of the crew members, were all saying like, hey, give this guy a shot. And I actually was very fortunate to have enough people in my corner continuing to throw my name into the ring, to where it wound up finally providing that opportunity.
Dude, what I love from all that, but what you just said too, like, totally makes sense and rings true. I feel like a lot of freelancers, gig work, contractors, they're out there to make a paycheck.
Right.
And unfortunately, we have to do that to feed our families and to buy this expensive gear.
It's a balance, though.
But you have to keep that passion at the forefront, even when the money doesn't match the level of passion required to move up, right? And that's anywhere in this industry. You're always gonna be wanting to get paid more, and so your passion level should always match your next paycheck.
Right. Creating those projects where the passion is there winds up fueling your career, in my opinion, more than anything you're ever gonna get paid for.
That's what you were doing in Washington's Armor. Let's fast forward to when you got the gig. Okay, so you heard, hey, you're the DP. We have this much left to shoot. What was your preparation? I mean, first off, what was that like?
Yeah.
Even just the experience.
To me, it was super surreal. Just having been on the set, knowing how many people are going to be on the set. Like, I think during the first thing that I got to be a part of, there was close to 150 people on set between cast and crew. And knowing that we were going into a bigger scene than we had even done in the 2 years prior. So my very first opportunity to do this thing, it was a battle scene with 80 cast members, and as a first time being on a crew with 150 people, and almost everyone there is waiting on me to do my job. If I don't do my job, like, G&E can't, they're doing whatever I need them to do to set the shot right. My camera team is waiting on me. Wardrobe's asking me how long until this team needs to be ready, and so it was a massive responsibility for a first time doing a feature. Like, didn't warm up with like a slow dialogue scene. Just jumped right into the deep end.
What were like the 3 to 5? Like, what were those things like? You're like, sweet, I got this gig.
Right.
It's my first DP role. It's huge. What did you do to prepare?
So the biggest thing was studying the fight scenes and like the camera, like how the camera needs to motivate the action in the scene. I wanted to do something I wanted there to be a lot more handheld movement in this stuff where the camera could motivate the movements of people swinging an axe and hitting someone, and the camera making you really feel it. And so we actually did fighting blocking rehearsals where I was going in, working with talent, studying how they were going to do their choreographed fight scenes. And then I was in my head choreographing how the camera could motivate these even more. So I wasn't just going in there blind. It was like I had trained movements that I knew I was going to do. So as talent had their marks, camera had my marks. And then also, there's just certain ways that you have to position the camera so that you can sell a fight scene. So if someone's throwing a punch, fist has to go across the camera to sell that rather than, the opposite of that. You can very easily see that a punch wouldn't hit, a sword wouldn't hit. And so just studying all the different techniques that were needed to really help sell the fight scenes was the first thing that I did. Because I've done little fight scenes on short films, but never 80 people with choreographed, stunts and all of that. So
research into
100%.
Not only camera placement, camera moves, but even camera theory to some extent, how to make fight scenes look real, right?
And I think for this, we were shooting in the middle of the day in a jungle, and our lighting setups were relatively simple. Like, we were doing I don't want to say mostly naturally lit stuff, but there was a good amount of it that was very light lighting setups with diffusion, bounce, stuff like that. And I think that natural look helps these things quite a bit. There's certain things, you can dial in, but we went with a pretty natural looking battle scene. And also just with the amount of time that I was given, there wasn't time to, fly 20 by 20 overheads over the entire thing. Like, we were letting the dapple and the jungle spill. We also got rained out. We were dealing with rain during that time, and so we actually had a day and a half that we lost, and so I had to make that time up with minimal light setups.
And here's what I'm going to ask you now, and you're going to have to repeat some of this stuff, but biggest challenges on those days. Some that are controllable,
right.
Others that aren't controllable. So those situations, what were some of the big things that other DPs have to think about and look out for that maybe are unexpected? And then how did you roll with those punches?
Well, the biggest thing is going out and doing a pre-scout before the shoot. And so, using Sunseeker, an app, to see where the sun is going to be at this time, actually seeing how the light spills, how much dapple we were going to have to deal with. But then I would say, even apart from that scene, what we also did during that section was day for night rain tower shoots in a jungle, in a valley. And
you got a trial by fire, bro.
Yeah.
But by rain, in reality.
Yeah, and we were configuring like umbrellas for you on the Movi to like wade through a river while you're being rained on with a $125,000 camera rig that you're trying to protect with this, like really like maybe this much extra room on each side.
Shout out to G&E team for making that happen. Also, don't tell the rental house that we never did that.
Yeah. So yeah, just dealing with day for night, rain tower, in trenches where our wireless video was shorting out because there was just too much interference. And so it was like technical difficulties. The terrain that we were dealing with was extreme. Planning the lighting for as we move throughout the day. It's going to hit us here. We're going to have too much dapple here. And when you have too much dapple, you can't do day for night and all these different things that we were having to take into consideration. So very complex setups in difficult environments and not a lot of time to do them either.
Yeah.
And this was my first opportunity
right
to DP a feature. So one of the other big things that was a big challenge was when we went and did a bit out in Oklahoma, it actually got down, it said it felt like 10 outside, and it was a 12-hour night shoot. So started at 3 p.m. and then shot till 3:30 a.m. And I was outside for pretty much 12 hours straight. I was the only one who didn't get to go inside like almost at all, minus a lunch break. And so I had 3 different toe warmers plus electric heated socks. I had, the long johns, 4 different jackets, hand warmers, heated gloves. It was cold, miserably cold. So cold that the grease inside of our lens froze for all of our lenses. So we get out there and, we start setting up, doing our thing. I've never experienced this before. Insane. Yeah, and I've shot in temperatures that were this cold, but I guess just the grease inside, there's grease and then there's oil, and I must have used, a lens with oil in it. But this grease actually wound up freezing to where our focus ring couldn't move at all. So we had to take turbojet heaters, melt the grease inside of the lenses and our follow focus, so the mechanics in our follow focus wouldn't move. And so we wound up putting space heaters on C-stands and keeping them on our cameras at all times because it was so cold that our lenses were locking up and our equipment wasn't working. And then you got another, 75 people who were saying, what's the holdup? And I'm like, I don't know. I've never dealt with temperatures like this. And so, yeah, having to just figure that out on the fly and being under the gun with time and just doing big outdoor setups when it's hard to even touch the camera and equipment. Generators were popping just due to how cold it was. It just didn't even, all of the equipment was malfunctioning due to the temperature that it was outside. So that was new for me.
Completely miserable, but make some beautiful pictures when you can shoot when we shot in New York.
Extreme conditions always make for a really, really dope picture.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I actually want to go back because you were talking about challenges for that, and one of the challenges that I forgot to mention was I actually wound up being the 3rd DP on this project. And so I did not get to come into it and do every single thing that I would have done if it were my own from day one. I had to actually look out for what was best for the project, see what creative decisions the DPs prior to me had done, do my best to merge them together, pull things that I liked from both of them so that I could do something that was cohesive for the movie rather than just totally make it my own from day one. So I think that was a big challenge, is going back and just studying what had been done prior and then keeping the project and what's best for the project, top of mind and making creative decisions in that way.
That's a huge challenge.
Yeah.
Valid point. Final question, working with the director, how is that relationship? I mean, this was probably one of your first times on a narrative piece of this size, right?
Yep.
So working with a director in a narrative, what did you come expecting? What did you learn? What was that experience like?
I think one of the biggest things that I learned was just juggling the relationship of not stepping on her toes too much and giving her room to create freely. And I think her and I have a good relationship. She knows that I'm going to nitpick light details, and AD is always yelling at me all right, we got 5. I need an actual 5, not 15, and so...
And you probably know how she likes to block or direct,
exactly.
And there's that give and take relationship that even you and I have on commercial sets where you cross into each other's lanes and you do it in a way that helps the other person out, but you also know where those boundaries are because you may not understand the side of the script or the side of the project. And same thing, the side of the lighting, those things that are so important, hey, I've got to have, 10 more minutes for this lighting design. Mm-hmm. It's worth it. So, what would you say the most important things that a aspiring DP should do to be able to get to where a lot of us want to be, which is in that narrative space, creating feature or episodic content?
Man, I think the biggest thing is going out there and trying to do it on a smaller scale. So whether that's making, short film after short film, or, like I said, working with other people and learning from them, but just getting out there and being ready to fail, going out there and really just, it's practicing, all this stuff that, comes from different lighting setups and camera movements and knowing what to do when you're in a certain situation. Once you're doing it on a big scale, all of that is stuff that 9 times out of 10 is learned on smaller projects. And so just the projects that we do, whether they're on small scale or big scale, pulling from all of those different experiences and then bringing them to these bigger budgeted projects is critical. And so putting in your 10,000 hours in advance to be an expert and know what to do in the majority of situations, and you're never going to know all of them, but just being prepared, with having done it on a smaller level many times is going to help you when you get to that narrative space.
That's awesome. Dude, super proud of you.
Thanks,
and I
bro.
Can't wait to see Washington's Armor come out, man.
Yeah, man.
Your first feature.
Yes, sir.
Can't wait. Congrats.
Appreciate it, brother.